Nothing changes instantaneously. In a gradually heating bathtub, you'd be boiled to death before you knew it. Our Father, who art in heaven. Seriously? What the actual fuck?
Gilead doesn't care about children. Gilead cares about power.
Why does healing have to be the only goal? Why can't we be as furious as we feel?
For whatever man sows, so shall he reap.
Welcome to Above the Garage.
Hi friends, we are anxious to dive into our new episode analysis, but we realize we should probably quickly reintroduce ourselves for any new listeners who are tuning in for these new episodes from Season 5. And thank you to all of our amazing off-season listeners. We appreciate you all so much. Anyway, we are a group of women from all across the world who spent a lot of time during the pandemic talking about The Handmaid's Tale and decided to turn that hobby into a podcast. We've had a blast recording over 80 episodes discussing seasons 1 through 4 in great depth, had some really fun interviews, and are psyched for our first new season. My name is Kate, I'm the host, and I'll be joined by Kimberly, our token Aussie and social media manager for all of our new episodes. Beyond that, the group of panelists changes every episode, so look out for some unique accents. On these first 2 episodes, which we recorded together, we have 2 Americans, 1 Australian, an Austrian, and a Finn, if that's what you call Finnish people. Anyway, let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Violet.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, I'm Claudia.
Hi, I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Kate. So this episode was written by Nina Fiore and John Herrera, who always write together, which is adorable, and directed by Elizabeth Moss herself. So this episode opens with the same song as episode 1, All I Do Is Dream by the Everly Brothers, but instead of it being Fred, she's thinking about it's Serena. A great way to confirm what Lawrence said. It wasn't enough. She's already thinking about wanting more. So I guess I was wrong. Her Fred murder isn't enough to wallpaper over all of the rapes and other trauma. Someone else has got to pay. So she's laying in bed next to Luke, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Serena until she gets up and heads into the freezing night to get the gun out of her car and bury it in the icy yard. A harder feat than she makes it out to be, I would think. But I think the point here is she's trying to make it harder for herself to kill, trying to literally bury her rage, maybe, and her easiest instrument to kill Serena. What did you guys think was her motivation there?
Yeah, I thought that she was getting scared of the fact that she thought about killing her too, because she's lying there and reminiscing about Serena, and I guess that she thought about all the nice ways that she could kill her, and then the smile that she has in the bed slowly drifts into a more creepy smile, and then she stops smiling.
Right.
And that's when the music stops and she decides to bury the gun because she realizes she can't do that, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
She's perfected that slide from happy into creepy
Yeah.
smile.
Oh, God.
Really good at it.
Lizzie loves her 360 shot. She did it again at the start of this episode.
Yes, she does love those.
It looks amazing. I mean, I get it.
I love her directing. I love the episodes she directs.
And this is also not the first time that June buries something in the yard in the show.
Right.
Remember season 3.
Oh, the body. Yes.
So maybe she thought about that too when she buried the gun there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It was even episode 2, right?
Season
In
3, episode 2?
I think so.
It is. Mary and Martha.
Yeah, that's funny.
It is interesting. The next scene, Serena's on a plane. So as usual, Tuello has facilitated her wishes. And like any good boyfriend at a family funeral, he assures her he'll be by her side every step of the way. But first she gets one more "you let my husband die" dig in, just like you protected Fred. And she and Fred deplane at the same time, only he's in a box.
I think it's if dead people are transported via plane, you have to put them in that kind of box.
The casket in a box, basically.
I think so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I loved when Vaughn was walking through the plane and they kind of slow-moed it and it looked like she was wearing a superhero cape.
I have a note of that later in the episode too, when she
I
leaves
have
the
it
doorway
too.
in the funeral. Yeah, she's got the cape thing going on today. I like it. Very dramatic. She walks out towards the greeting party, the 2 men most responsible for these festivities, Nick Blaine and Commander Lawrence. I would love to know how these 2 were chosen for the job, but I'm glad for it. And Lawrence proceeds to joke his way through the entire exchange. I mean, he's always been the primary source of the much appreciated humor in the show, but funerals really bring out his best, it seems. So he's really enjoying himself, dropping jokes and laughing at himself left and right. When Serena thanks them for arranging this, he deadpans, "We'd never leave a brother out in the cold," which is, of course, exactly what they did to Fred. And dead Fred himself rolls by sometime around Lawrence telling Serena that her besties, the Putnams, will be generously hosting Fred's wake. And then she looks directly at Nick and starts waxing poetic about Fred as a father figure. And all I could hear was Fred yelling son at Nick 598 times in the last episode. But then I snapped out of my reverie in time to hear her say, June really did bring so much suffering to us. And Nick's not going to let that fly. Instead, he replies, the Lord really has blessed me, as in with June. And then looking at her pregnant belly, he adds, and you, as in with Holly too. I really wish I had words for the physical humor that Bradley Whitford exhibits next when he kind of like shimmies all giddily. Oh, look at us, all getting along like friendly diplomats trying to bury the hatchet. He's so funny. And even Tuello can't help but laugh genuinely at this display with like this huge out of character smile. And so, as he says,
in the
we'll
background.
see. Yeah, it was so funny. It was such a like Tuello reaction, and I loved it.
It really kind of looks like Bradley Whitford was just like throwing in bloopers, and they just decided to keep them in because they were great.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too. That's how it felt with Sam's response.
Exactly.
Because Sam Yeager is a delightful human being normally, but he doesn't laugh a whole lot on this, But Bradley, nobody cannot laugh at Bradley Whitford. Yeah, Tuello's like very somber.
I noticed that the expression on Nick's face changed immediately when Serena started talking about June. He managed to hold on to his mask and started doing the regular Gilead speak with Serena or Gilead small talk, but you could still tell that he was affected by what she said and her mentioning June.
Yep, just hearing her name throws him off.
Yeah, I think it was a nice little dig at Serena that he had something good with June and a baby and everything.
Right. I love that because she says that she's ruined our lives, and he's like, no, she's like the best part of my life. So
yeah,
I love Serena's look as well when Nick says condolences. She knows that he does not mean that at all.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like, this episode is interesting to me because she knows, you can tell she knows that Lawrence and Nick were the only two people that could have helped June, and yet she lets them get away with it. She doesn't actually seek their punishment except to get what she wants and use it as leverage. So I was surprised by that she's kind of okay with it.
Yeah. I think she is sad about Fred's death, but I don't think she's that sad.
Yeah, same. I think you see that also even like later in the funeral when Lawrence is like, take your time. And she's like, no, let's do the show.
I also feel like a lot of people, particularly with the like Gilead mentality or whatever, prefer, like you said, the leverage and the blackmail to be a card they can use at any time they want.
Yeah.
If she holds on to that, she could use it over and over again against them.
That's a great point. Yeah. Then Serena asked Lawrence to see the church they've arranged for Fred's service, and he very happily agrees. He's far too entertained, and I was immediately like, whoa, why is he that happy? What's about to happen? Which we find out in the next scene. Our first view of the church looks fine. Serena's standing on the pulpit, stained glass, saints on the windows, until she turns and says, not a popular church, I take it. And I like that we still don't know what she means for another beat until the camera spins and we see it's a tiny church with seating for maybe like 50 people if you weren't worried about the fire code. But I like that even when she delivered her line, I was still wondering what's wrong with it. The slow reveal was perfect. And I also love that it's Lawrence, Nick, and Tuello in the church with her, all three of the men that arranged this death. Although Tuello, unknowingly, with a straight face, Lawrence explains that it's out of respect for her that they thought they should make this as quick and simple as possible. He will be laid to rest at Granary Burial with other revolutionaries. And that part surprised me because I've been there and some cool people are buried there. Paul Revere, John Hancock, Samuel Adams, way cooler than Fred. It seems like an honor, not a diss, but I guess because they were symbols of the country he betrayed. I don't know. They were surely considered traitors in the country they came from too, though. So there are certainly some commonalities, except they actually fought for freedom and he the opposite. Anyway, Serena says, nice touch, sarcastically. And Lawrence suggests getting back to Canada and her life, taking a hockey game, an elegant but brutal sport. She should love it. She really should. Elegant yet brutal is Serena to a T. She complains that this is hardly the farewell befitting one of the founding fathers of Gilead and tells them it looks like a pack of wolves torn to Fred. Makes me wonder what really happened to him. Lawrence, unfazed, replies that he can't even imagine, and Nick joins in. We can't control what the Americans do along the border, Mrs. Waterford, though with a hint of a smile. And a lovely parallel to him and Lawrence with Fred and Fortin when Lawrence asks if his objecting would do anything. And Nick replies, at the border, I'm afraid the eyes maintain tactical control. Serena continues, there's only one person that could express that kind of rage. Which bitch? It's because there's only one person in whom you and Fred created that rage. Or one who hasn't killed herself yet. And Serena points out the truth that June could never have gotten to Fred on her own and threatens them. Do you know what the other commanders would do if they found out you helped a handmaid kill her commander? Lawrence is still not giving in, and Serena suggests he'll figure it out. You're nothing if not resourceful.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, she's basically blackmailing them into basically not outing them as helping June kill Fred, and she gets her big funeral and public display, and that's all she wants.
Yeah, and they're not scared, strangely, though. Like, they don't take her threat seriously, whereas I might if I were them. She can't prove anything.
I kind of love Nick's little slip when Serena talks about it looks like some pack of wolves tore through Fred, and he's like, okay, yeah, I know. At the airport, he seems to hold his mask more than in the chapel where it's only them and almost everybody knows, right? It's like he doesn't have to fake that much anymore. And I love that he's immediately blaming the Americans, and Tuella is just standing there looking at him and not responding. And I thought that Tuella would say, no, we didn't do this, but he just lets it through. That was interesting.
Yeah, I was surprised too. He just lets it lie.
And the line that Nick is only a puppy, I found that very hilarious from Lawrence. I thought I should mention that. Another good one from Bradley Whitford.
He's literally the comedian of the show. Like, I would watch a whole comedy hour of just Lawrence speaking.
It's amazing. It's
that's what we did this episode.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, basically.
It's like everything he says is either sarcastic or joking, or you can't take him serious at all. Even when he starts to speak serious, I'm always on the edge thinking, no way he means this, because he's like talking bullshit all the time.
I was just thinking that going to Gilead with Serena is also an opportunity for Tuello to observe the commanders, and maybe especially Nick. It's not just him going there to protect Serena.
Yeah, for sure.
He's doing other kind of work too.
Well, we see it a bit later, right? That he's trying to, but they suspect that he tries to do that.
Then Lydia's pumped, if I do say so myself. She's giving one hell of an exciting pep talk for this wake. This is a chance for you to impress prospective commanders, to do his good works, and to make yourselves truly worthy. Oh, blessed be this day, Kimberly. Do you remember when you woke up early the day the teaser was out and you couldn't go back to sleep because she scared the shit out of you?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I was just laying in bed, watching the teaser at 7 a.m. in the morning. And then she's like, blessed be this day. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm awake. Jesus, Lydia. Calm down.
So funny. Listen, Kimberly does not wake up early. So that was a big thing. She did not go back to sleep. Lydia singles out Esther, tells her she looks lovely, and Esther replies in all the expected ways. And Lydia tells Janine she's done great with her. She shall be rewarded by escorting her to the Putnams, which is an absolutely wild idea after the last time she was a guest there. But hey, let's do it. I remember last time we were thinking Naomi invited the handmaids because she was bored. So that kind of works here too. The Putnams have expressed interest in a new handmaid, and Lydia points out Esther is young and fertile. By the way, all evidence would actually point to her not being fertile.
Right?
She was raped by so many men and never got pregnant. Right. But maybe they did some medical testing.
I was going to say too, she seemed to know people. She might have got like black market stuff, maybe.
Yeah, could have birth control back then. Hopefully.
She may be using her own herbs for that.
That's true. She's very knowledgeable, and you're right. And then Janine, being Janine, pushes it a little too far, asking if the Putnams choose Esther, if she could maybe visit her. And Lydia admonishes her, but sweetly, not to get ahead of herself. Lydia's tone has changed for the better, but Janine is thinking more about herself than Esther here, considering her experience at the Putnams was not easy on her.
I was weirded out by the fact that, I know that Janine wants to see a baby, but to go back to all this crap, and she looked so happy, and she didn't even know if she gets to see the baby at all, because usually there wouldn't be the kids around at a grown-up thing, right? So I don't know what she tried to do.
Yeah. Now, how old is Esther supposed to be now?
15, I think.
14 or 15, right?
Yeah.
Either way, it's disgusting. But anyway.
It is. Then we're at an overly abundant feast at the Putnams. This must be Fred's wake. Naomi has the pyramid of macaroons that I will associate with her from heretofore unto eternity, that nobody would actually ever dare select one from. Lots of meats, finger sandwiches, which just made me think of Fred's finger, and a lovely portrait of Fred looking down upon them all. As Serena and Tuella walk in, someone shuts the door next to them that the commanders are hiding behind, and the Putnams come to greet them. Warren side-eyes Tuella, shares some fake condolences with Serena, says Fred was like a brother to me, and Serena replies with, "The Lord always meets us in our need," which is from John 4:24, a verse about truth, possibly calling his bullshit. And then Naomi pulls Serena away towards the other wives. As Tuella starts to follow her, Warren funnily turns him around and sits him in a chair by the door. Spies go no further in this house. Tuella attempts to remind him that the deal they made was that he stayed with Serena, but he loses this debate without any real effort, and Martha hands him a plate full of food he quickly sets aside. I wouldn't eat food handed to me in that scenario either. Nick and Lawrence come out of the room with the newly closed doors so Lawrence can break the sad news to Serena that the council has refused a state funeral, and she accuses him of not even asking, which is a good call as he basically admits as much, pointing out that a woman's word doesn't matter here. It seems to be a lingering feeling that for all of Fred's admirable qualities, he was a traitor, and Lawrence exits stage right. Notes on those scenes?
I think Violet noticed the one-shot thing and we went back to how long it took, right?
Yeah. So this entire scene from the time Serena and Tuella walk in until I guess basically the end of the scene in the Putnam's house is one shot. Like they never cut away. So it's all like choreographed perfectly. So people are walking in and out of the room and different conversations are happening like at exactly the right time. It's almost 2.5 minutes of a continuous scene, and the way they shoot it with like the 360 camera and stuff. Oh man, it's Lizzie bowing down.
We watched it 3 times, I guess, in back to back. It was amazing.
We kept going back because we were like, oh shit. Yeah, it was so great. It's wonderful the way that she brings all these different characters into the shot, like in and through the shot. It's just, you're like seeing everybody who's there and what they're doing in the background. And it's just, it's brilliantly shot and directed. It's really interesting because I feel like, so the episode's called Ballet, and obviously there's the ballet later, but I feel like it's shot to kind of make you feel like a ballet. Like everybody is moving in a choreographed way, and
it's a good
with
point.
the 360 camera and everything, like it's very, and it comes up again too in a later scene. That's a continuous shot. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's like a dance, the whole scene.
Yeah, it's like a dance, exactly.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
And I felt that there was some contrast in this scene at the Putnam house that looks basically like a golden palace with everything glittering and all spotless. And then you compare it to Nick's house that we saw in the first episode, which was like very, very normal, sort of average, middle class type of a place. You can tell that there's a big difference between the statuses of Nick and Warren Putnam.
Yeah, his house was like exceptionally normal and average, like you said, like noticeably different from everything we've seen everywhere else.
One thing that was funny to me in the scene is when Putnam said he's like a brother to him, and I just remember 410 when he just said, "Thoughts and prayers. We'll leave you on your own now."
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
we haven't done shit.
Nobody cares about anyone in Gilead. It's crazy. Back at Luke and Moira's, June has taken up a very Serena-esque hobby of gardening, but it looks like she's growing sprouts in the living room. She's very dedicated to this hobby. So very Serena greenhouse relevant. Moira's joking in the other room about June gardening in winter, and June rolls her eyes as we hear a beer bottle cap hit the floor. Must be Luke. Apparently Rita comes over for game night, which is super fun, but why are they sitting on the floor? I like sitting on the floor, but I've never hung out with like 2 or more adults that were all down with sitting on the floor when there was a perfectly good kitchen table. Anyway, the choice of game is about as fucking horrific as it can get for June. Scrabble, which she was supposed to count herself lucky to be allowed to play when Fred broke the laws and risked her life to make her pretend she really liked him. Lovely memory. Indeed, she starts remembering Serena holding her down to be raped at 9 months pregnant as she picks up the letter J and stares at it until she drops it. Luke notices something's off, good job, Luke, and asks her if she's okay, and she lies. Moira jokes with him he could wear the little Monopoly top hat to the ballet, which I'm confused by the game confusion.
I think it's a stack of games because I thought that too. Like there's like Scrabble on the top and then there's like other games underneath. So she pulls the Scrabble off the top and that's...
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The mini game reference. Gotcha. And Rita hears her bread dinging. June runs after her just to be able to talk to somebody who she thinks will understand what's bothering her. She's pissed that Serena's just waltzing back between Canaan and Gilead like she's a fucking queen. When is she going to get what she deserves? Maybe they'll take her baby away, make her a handmaid, and then put her on the wall. Moira has joined them, and Moira and Rita look at each other in some combination of disgust and fear. June's not getting her desired reaction, so she reminds Rita of when Serena hit her after that fucked up baby shower. And I enjoy Amanda's acting here. Shut up. Fuck. I may not have been a handmaid, but I struggle too every day. And when June apologizes, she just nods and says good, walks out with Moira asking her, what the fuck is wrong with you? So strange that everybody else is taking on the what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you say that kind of role that Luke kind of played through season 4? What did you guys think of that scene?
I got out of the scene as June is definitely not okay, even though she tries to pretend a lot. Her eye roll first at the gardening when the others talk about her, and then her having that hard flashback. And I love that Luke finally asks her if she's okay, but when she says, yeah, it's okay, he's kind of, okay, perfect. Even though you can see that she's lying. And I hope that she could talk to Rita when she followed her, but yeah, it seems that Rita really wants to move on, and June didn't do it the right way. But still, the reaction of Moira just was a bit too harsh for me, because shut the fuck up is definitely not the way to get June to a better place at all, and makes her probably pull back again a bit more. So I struggled a lot during this scene to watch it, because it seems so hard for June the whole time. So,
yeah, it's really hard because people keep like
dismissing,
piling on guilt still too, like though, but like it's her fault that she's upset Rita. I mean, she did go about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
But it's just, they're not thinking of what she's been through when they talk to her like that. You know what I mean? They're not realizing that she's still so deep in like shame about a lot of things, and how that's triggering that for her to say that to her.
Yeah.
And I think that it made her feel very lonely that they pushed her away like that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Telling her to shut up is like pushing her back into a box again, and making her bottle up even more. She's reluctant to talk about everything as it is already, but telling her to shut up makes her want that even more, because nobody gets it and nobody wants to hear it. So why should she even talk about it? So yeah.
I went and looked up the meaning of J8, because that's the Scrabble tile she picked up. I was trying to figure out like why she picked up that specific tile, but I don't know if it was just because her name is June, or
I think it's she's June now. Back at the Waterford, she was Offred, so maybe she's just trying to at least remind herself she's June. But
that's a good point, though, Claudia. She's like playing Scrabble as June instead of as Offred. I hadn't thought about it like that.
Do you think she ever plays Scrabble?
No.
I mean, probably not. But like, if she's looking at the board, it's like she's obviously being thrown back into Offred land.
Yeah.
So the J is like an anchor kind of like, I'm not going to go there.
Yeah.
Back at the Putnams, Nick and Tuello are standing a few feet apart, just looking at each other, sizing each other up, perhaps. And Nick drinks alcohol for the first time ever in the show. So another mystery solved. Nick does drink, despite his brother drinking himself to death. Lydia and her handmaids come in, and Tuello greets her, hello, Aunt, as if he doesn't know her name, which irritates her and entertains Nick. But you can tell Nick's bothered with the handmaids, especially seeing young Esther joining the ranks. Or maybe there's something else going on there, but there's a long look that means something. Did you guys have thoughts on that look?
Yeah.
When they walk away, yeah.
Does Esther know who Nick is, or is she just looking at Nick because Nick's looking at her? Because she kind of looks back like, a typical teenager, like, what are you looking at me for?
He was involved in arresting her, right? So they probably met.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
True.
And he knows June cares about her, so he may have, followed up in some ways. I don't know.
I mean, that was like the first thing he told June when he captured her in episode 3. Well, in episode 3 in the van, is that Esther Keyes is safe, or she's So he knows how much she cares about that.
Yeah.
Was it a nice look she gave him though? Because she kind of looked back like annoyed.
I think she's permanently annoyed by her existence.
That's probably true.
That's what I thought.
Constant face.
Definitely true.
I didn't think she was angry or anything.
Yeah.
I don't think she's angry at Nick at all. Like, she just looked like a typical teenager, like pissed off at the world. And I would be too if I was in Gilead.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it interesting that Lydia greets Nick already. I mean, we have seen the interesting. I want to see more of that dynamic because of the way she talked to him back in episode 3 in season 4. So that was fascinating. I mean, it got comical when Tuello didn't really address her right. So
Tuello says praise be to Lydia, and Nick gives him this hilarious look, like
he's smirking.
Yeah, like what did you just say? That's so weird. Just love
Why?
Tuello trying to like say the right things in Gilead, and it just sounding really wrong coming from him.
And then I want to talk about the fact that Tuello seems to have walked up to Nick on purpose because that stare was interesting that they gave each other.
Now we get a Lydia Serena reunion, and it's always fun to see these two find ways to passive aggressively hate each other in front of everybody. At one point, Lydia can't find an appropriate word for Serena and finally settles on a marvel. You are a marvel, Mrs. Waterford. Good word, Lydia. Lydia tells Naomi to follow her, and then we see Esther, still being Esther, trying to get Janine to do something with her now that they're out of the gym, out of the stupid gym. Janine begs her to follow the rules and stay alive, and then Naomi comes in to inspect her new potential handmaid, Esther. She sees how young she is, but seems more concerned that she used to be a wife. But she eventually says fine, approving the ritual raping of a child in her home. But then we have the loveliest scene as toddler Charlotte, Angela, runs into the room and straight to her real mom, Janine. And Naomi lets it go on for a little under 10 seconds, I counted, before saying that's enough. And Janine truly appears happy when she says, "You have a beautiful daughter, Mrs. Putnam." Naomi says, "I thank God for her every day," in her Naomi-like way, and then completely surprised me and Janine with, "and for those who brought her to me." I know she kidnapped Janine's child, but that aside for a moment, this was the loveliest Naomi moment. And also, Ever looks like gorgeous this season. She always looks beautiful, but I feel like she's just like stunning this season.
I agree. And when Charlotte/Angela runs in and she says, "Blessed day, it's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life."
That is so cute.
And her little, what's the hat thing? Is it like a bonnet?
A bonnet.
A bonnet, yeah.
And it's like, it's too big for her head and it's like bouncing kind of off, and it's the cutest.
She's so
awesome.
Cute.
Obviously, it looks like she just ran up to her. Obviously, Naomi didn't tell her to go hug her, so she remembers it.
Right. Yeah, that's the question, right? Why would she run right up to her? Last time she saw her was probably in that hospital as a baby. And she saved her life.
Yeah.
It's sweet. I like that they did it.
This whole scene was like surprisingly, so very, very moving. Like I was just like, oh, Naomi.
Yeah.
But that line was so striking. The way she ended it, the way she delivered it, everything about it was just like, it has stuck with me. I think about it often.
Yeah, she seems to have something genuine going on. Like that's, I don't know. I feel like when Serena would say things like a small kindness or something, there was just like an edge to it. Like you were like, what are you up to? But when Naomi says it, you feel like she's being genuine. Yeah.
I also feel like this season, she's, from what we've seen so far, like as Warren is spiraling downward into demon status, she's kind of going the opposite direction, you know? Like, she seems to have more heart. And I like it.
I was just remembering was it season 3 where Janine goes up to them when the handmaids are at the house, like, and then Warren's like, "No, go away," basically, but Naomi's like, "No, you can hold her," or something like that.
I think ever since Janine saved Charlotte, I think it changed something in Naomi, and she's really thankful for that.
I think Naomi and her relationship with Charlotte is kind of like what Mrs. Mackenzie has with Hannah. They genuinely care about those kids, but obviously they're not their real moms, but they do care. And with Mrs. Mackenzie and June, it's a more difficult relationship because obviously June's tried to get Hannah so many times, and she's traumatized Hannah and she's really disturbed them. But Janine's really been so good for such a long time that Naomi doesn't really have a reason to resent her.
Well, that's kind of what she's trying to instill with Esther too, right? Like just kind of be good, in quotes, be a serving person that's like meek and do what they say and they'll treat you well. Like I think that's the game Janine's playing.
Yeah. I mean, if you say game, I'm already thinking back to Janine was kind of a rebel last season. And I always wondered if Lydia really broke her with saying that June left her behind, or if she doesn't believe that. But I think now seeing her like that she believed it and she's now making the best of it again, that made me sad because she's like fully being the meek Janine again. I hope she still keeps some of her rebel side in herself.
I hope so too.
I mean, it is a protective thing for her. I mean,
Yeah,
she
I
knows that
know.
works, and she's able to see Charlotte and all that. So
Probably doesn't want to get her other eyeball cut out.
yeah.
Now it's time for Lydia to bring Esther into the room full of rapist assholes so Putnam can approve his new victim. Putnam orders everybody to excuse them, even Aunt Lydia. And as he dismisses her, you hear these dissonant notes repeating over and over. And it took me right back to this game, Friday the 13th. I used to play on the NES that I have not even thought of in decades. Now I've got to revisit it to see if it's like the same notes. But I'm disappointed in Aunt Lydia for leaving here. I don't think she had to. She seems to have power over commanders. She could have just said no. But
Agree.
anyway, here we are. And while Naomi seems to be changing a little for the better, Warren is just getting creepier by the moment. He opens with, "You don't have to be scared. God sees your heart. Allow the gifts God blessed you with to be seen by all others," which is not an actual quote from the Bible. And then he mansplains his disgusting nonsense, saying that it just means he wants to get to know her a little better. Bullshit, asshole. And then he offers her chocolate and he feeds it to her like she's a baby, which makes it all worse. And it's just so disgusting. Great camera work, though. Makes it extra disgusting. But poor Esther.
Yeah, I got goosebumps.
Me too.
Yeah.
It was like a horror movie or something like out of horror stories.
American Horror Story.
Something because of the close-up and the devilish grin. And I was so scared of that.
I was wondering what Esther's status is at this point, because she's supposed to become the Putnam's handmaid, but she still goes back with Janine and then Lydia to Red Center after this. So is she still like in training?
I think the next day she was going to go.
I think she has to pack up.
Like that.
Yeah, get her stuff.
And be like officially assigned to them, because I think this was just like the introduction to see
getting them to agree.
Right, getting them to agree. And then they would go back and actually fill out the paperwork or whatever.
Ugh. I wonder if Putnam was like this with Janine.
He seems to have really gotten a lot grosser, though. Like, he's more aggressive with Serena and the commanders. He's just really nasty.
Yeah.
I feel like he probably didn't have the balls to be like that.
I feel like the power has gotten to Putnam's head a bit, because I remember just in that earlier scene, Truello congratulates him on his promotion, and, you know, they'll work together with negotiations and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I'm wondering if that was a little bit his change of attitude, like he's getting too big for his boots kind of thing.
He seems so far gone now, and that was really shocking, because he's like all happy and excited about the fact that he's getting a literal child to rape monthly. So it was just terrifying to me.
And I think that they made a point of him treating her like one too, with the airplane like feeding. So
exactly,
just to
make it even more horrible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ugh. Next, June's in her tiny little green room, and Luke joins her. She tells him Serena knows she killed Fred, and when he asks her why, her answer is hesitant and adorable. I actually really love this scene. I sent her a finger, Fred's finger. I cut it off him because I wanted her to know it was me. And he gets upset. "Do you want her to come after us and our family?" And she goes on that she knows her and that Serena has a plan, and Luke yells at her, "Stop! You're obsessing over her. You sent her a finger. How is that going to help us? How is that going to help you?" And then he gets down on his knees beside her and begs her to just be here for him and Nicole and their family. And she apologizes. And he tells her she's probably terrified of you. You won. You're here. She can't get to you. June nods, agreeing. He tells her to let go, forget about her, fuck her. And June repeats, fuck her. But she's just lying to him. I don't even know if she's bothering to lie to herself.
I hate that he's literally saying, "You gotta be right here. I need you here. Nicole needs you here." He's like pushing down again on the fact that she needs to do this. Otherwise, he and Nicole and everybody won't be happy. It's like guilting her. And she slowly gives in to that. And I really had a bad feeling about that. And I like that the whole scene was so dark, even in the end, because that's what I felt like, because it's not a bright scene. And she only repeats his words. She's like telling it to herself. She needs to forget about Serena.
In the last season, they said this, Rita said this to her too, when she told her about her pregnancy, and she said, fuck her. And June repeated it just like this, fuck her. But it doesn't work, right? We know that it doesn't work.
No.
But I do like this scene is a Luke that I know and I'm familiar with, and we saw through all of season 4, right?
Right.
The later scene at the ballet and after the ballet is just perplexing to me, because like this is how we've seen them for ever since she got back to Canada, and it's in line with everything that we've seen and experienced and expect. So anyway, I like the scene because it felt
more
In
authentic.
character.
yeah, exactly.
I've said this, but I personally don't think he's actually changed that much. I think he's just really desperate for her to stay there.
Now he's pushing himself and her.
I think my discomfort with some of the changes between them that are so jarring are probably more on June's side, like you're saying. I've come to realize, I think June pretending that, you know, they're like pre-Gilead, and those things are what's so jarring to me that I don't get. And I think you're right. I think it's more June than Luke.
And Luke is sort of orchestrating it though a little bit. Like I think it's also important that him grabbing her and kissing her, and then this scene come in the episode that's ballet, right? Because it's like a performance again. Like everyone is like acting. I'm sure trying to convince themselves that they can be those people, but I feel like this scene in particular sort of pushes June back into pre-Gilead June a little bit, like to try to be that person, because that's how she's acting at the date that they have later and stuff. Like I think this makes her go like, okay, I really have to like go into that shell of who I was and be that person again for this to work.
Yeah, I was just going to say that when you remember what Rita and Moira told her earlier, she's telling herself, you have to be a good girl. You have to forget about all of this. You have to be normal, be a good girl, be normal.
Yeah. And now Emily's gone. She doesn't really have, you know, that person to talk to that feels the same way she does.
Or anybody that really knows who she is now.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not as angry at June's turnaround, because I'm like, she looks to me like she's mentally ill now a bit. Like she's developing multiple personalities, because she's trying so hard to be that other person that she's partially really looking like she's that other person. But at the next moment, she's fully back on the raging June, and it's like spinning around so much that it looks like it's not working at all what she's doing. It's like a play pretend thing.
Then Serena finds her way into the room the commanders are gathered in. It's a brighter room now. Nick looks weird to me. His jacket's unbuttoned, shirt and tie are askew. It's super strange to see him so not put together amongst the commanders. But anyway, Serena makes the plea to the room to give Fred a proper funeral. Putnam's a complete asshole to her too. She spins it as a marketing opportunity for Gilead, show them that we grieve just like they do, make Fred's funeral an international event. I kind of thought Nick looked briefly scared at this proposition, but then Lawrence throws her a bone, says, we've shown the world our fists, now we show our humanity. And Putnam attacks Lawrence then. Why should we listen to someone who doesn't even adhere to our way of life? No wife, no child, no handmaid. Lawrence thanks him for reminding him of the untimely passing of his wife before he attacks back. He's watched them pass up one opportunity after another that could have led to more prosperity. Putnam continues, a traitor's funeral for all the world to see. How will that make us look? And Nick jumps in now, merciful. It will make us look merciful. I served Commander Waterford for many years. He wasn't perfect, but at least we can honor the sacrifices he made to our nation. Serena points out she was a barren woman made fruitful by his grace, and Lawrence sees her potential as a symbol to elevate them, help them take their place among the other great nations of the world. And then Putnam kicks her out so they can discuss the idea, and she gives Nick one more look, grateful maybe, before she leaves. What do you guys think was in that look?
I think it was like an understanding, like, I did it, there you go. Like, Nick kind of like almost like nods a little bit at her, like,
now can you please not tell on us? Thank you.
We've reached, it's like a handshake moment or something between them.
Yeah.
I also love how when Nick first speaks in the scene, Putnam, they cut to Putnam, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I just imagine the way Putnam is looking at Nick, I imagine him being like, who the fuck is this guy? Like he just has this like look on his face, like what? Like he's never heard his voice before or something. Yeah.
I loved when Lawrence fully went clap back at Putnam when he tries to put him back in his place, basically, because he's seemingly above him. Or I don't know what's the hierarchy here is now. And Nick is smirking at that because he's like always with Lawrence now.
He's his puppy dog.
He's his puppy, yeah.
I was thinking of when Calhoun kind of said, oh, wait, let's listen to what he has to say. I was thinking of the end of last season when Lawrence asked Lydia to get the spill the tea on Calhoun. Like Lawrence needs some stuff so he can, slowly move up the ranks. And I think now he definitely has told Calhoun that he has some shit on him, and Calhoun's kind of turned on Lawrence's side of it. That's what it looked like to me anyway.
So I was gonna ask if we think that Nick wanted June to see the funeral.
I don't think he's thinking about that at this point at all. He seems not cool with the idea of the broadcast until he's like, his brain is turning and he's like, oh, right, we got to do this because she's blackmailing us. But I don't think he wanted that, because he has this kind of like almost like an eye roll when she first mentions it.
Then we get an aerial shot of the red van, which gives me a little bit of Alma PTSD now. And inside the van, Esther's upset. She reaches for Janine's hand and tells her she doesn't want to be posted. Instead of validating her fears, Janine just tells her to get her commander to like her and she'll get pregnant faster. It did work for Janine, but she also ended up jumping off a bridge almost with her baby. Anyway, more sex is Janine's answer, and Esther asks if she really thinks being pregnant will protect her. It's your only protection, Janine says.
I was just wondering what you think maybe June would have said to her in this situation.
All I know is she wouldn't have said that.
She probably would have tried to soothe her a bit about her fears and told her she knows. And maybe she would have given her the pep talk about she can't go off and do shit if she's not in a right position or something like that, because only if she's posted and they are not closely watching her,
right, that would have
she
been
can do some shit.
A better talk. Yeah. Now we're back with Serena and Tuello, and she bums a cigarette to share with her baby before Lawrence knocks and announces he's convinced them to do it. When she asks how, he obnoxiously replies, by not being a woman. Accurately, probably. And Tuello leaves them to the planning. Serena thinks it's important to invite commanders from out of town, which immediately made me think of Mackenzie, but she doesn't name him in her initial names.
I'm just over here like constantly laughing about you saying she bums a cigarette to share with her baby.
Thank you. I like that one.
That was
I did not even realize. I just totally blocked that out, that she's pregnant wanting a cigarette. Like I did not.
I did too, actually.
About that
so
one time.
Now we get another scene from the trailer. The noir Nick meeting in the headlights of his new sedan in crunchy snow, and it's Tuello. Yay. Nick immediately asks how she is. He tells her that the file you put together for her was good. And then he asks about Nicole. She's well cared for. Tuello points out you've risen fast while somehow managing to help June. That takes talent to fly under the radar like that. And he says he's just trying to stay out of trouble. Tuello offers him a deal now. Would you like to see your daughter in person instead of asking about her? He says that's a pipe dream. But Tuello replies, he knows Nick's made mistakes, but America can be a very forgiving place. If you make amends, gain us some visibility, play your part for a while. I'd like to help you and your daughter if you let me. We could help each other. And Nick nods, says, I'll remember that. And then they part. And this is an excellent deal, and I think he would jump at any chance to make reparations for his earlier mistakes.
He's not going to just like take a deal without thinking it through. Like he's not impulsive, so he's got to like weigh what's being said and can he trust Tuello and all of that.
Especially after season 3, he already told June that he thinks that governments always have their own agenda and he doesn't trust
which Tuello
any
does,
of them.
Clearly does.
Yeah, so it's his hesitation is warranted, I guess.
This is a really specific comment, but I feel like this scene in particular has incredible sound. I mean, I guess the whole episode kind of does. I don't know if that's the editor or the sound designer or what, but like the sound of the cigarette, the sound of like the walking in the snow, like everything is just very crisp and like you can hear every little sound and it's just really, it really adds to it.
It's a cool scene.
This is also, yeah, it's really cool. And it's a scene like we've all been waiting for like years.
So I had a couple of comments. One of them was actually about their entire exchange here. He immediately starts asking about June and Holly. But Tuello is really cagey about giving him any info. But you can tell he really wants that. And he's asking for these scraps from people he doesn't even trust. But he doesn't have any other choice.
Yeah, he's desperate.
But I think Tuello is sort of testing him here. He's not giving him much. But I think when you look at Nick and the way his entire demeanor changes and how interested he is in hearing about his family, I think Tuello sees here that I might actually have a chance at getting him to agree to this deal. So he's sort of figuring out to see if this deal is going to be successful.
Honestly, that's probably part of the reason why Nick doesn't accept right away too, though, because he's seeing that he's like, Tuello is literally playing him in that scene, really. I mean, Nick called this meeting, obviously, because one of his guys brings Tuello there. So Nick wanted to meet Tuello to ask about June and Nicole. That's the reason why he wanted to talk to him. And Tuello used the opportunity to talk to him about something else. So it's literally what Nick said, what Claudia just said, that he's seeing that Tuello doesn't really care about him and his family. He just cares about what he can get out of it. I don't know that that's actually accurate, but I'm just wondering if Nick is thinking that in the scene. Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't know what Tuello's intentions are there exactly, but I think that what Sarah just said kind of adds to that, because what they want out of this meeting is very different. Nick wants to know about his family, and Tuello wants to see if he can get Nick to...
He wants a spy. Yeah.
To spy, yeah.
One of the reasons I love this scene was that this whole idea that he might have a life as a free man outside of Gilead. This is like the first time it's really introduced as a serious option.
Right.
And I really, really love that.
I love that because the question about if Nick ever would be able to get to be free in Canada was talked about a lot in social media. So I love that we get to hear it, because I always thought, like, even Fred got a deal. So why shouldn't they be able to do one with Nick, who is more than capable of helping out, because he's always doing stuff that is not Gilead conform. So he's used to stuff like that. And it's not a Gilead believer. So it isn't a weird thing for him to do stuff against Gilead. So
then June's getting ready for the ballet. I really wish they'd explained why they're going to the ballet. I know why the show wants her at the ballet, and it's a brilliant montage, but I think it's a little out of left field without an in-universe reason. Anyway, she's zipping up her boots like she did in front of Nick in season 1, and when she puts her earrings in, she kind of caresses her ear tag.
I have to comment that June sits at the window exactly like back in Gilead, and that shocked me a bit, because I know we know what her head state seems to be like at the moment. So it seems to be very intentional to have her feel a bit more like Alfred.
Especially before the scene where she's acting so pre-Gilead June. I guess it's a performance like the ballet, I guess.
Yeah, it's like she's in her dressing room getting ready for the show.
Yeah. And I really loved that they go back and forth between June dressing up in white, because she tries to get rid of her sins, I guess, and try to be a good girl again. And Serena is dressing all in black for the funeral, and we know that she's a really bad girl, actually. So it fits.
It's a great, very like classic look of like two opposing people.
It's like a chessboard, black queen versus a white queen.
It's like Black Swan, isn't it? June's like the white swan, and Serena's the black swan. And June is literally dressed in a dress that makes her look like a swan. Like the puffy shoulders as well. Like it looks like feathers.
Yeah. First, we are back in the Red Center with Janine and Esther snuck her chocolates from the Putnams. Janine starts telling her they treat you the best when you're pregnant, like you're a princess, and saying maybe Lydia will let us be walking partners. I'm going to miss you. Then Esther laughs and says, I really didn't like you when I first met you. After Janine laughs too, she continues, and I was right the first time. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? This is aggressive, Esther. I mean, I kind of assumed from the trailer that she was going to poison them here, but I was surprised by the animosity. Janine was too, and she asked why, and Esther tells her she doesn't care about her. She just uses her to see her daughter, uses me like Aunt Lydia does. You're just one of them. Janine defends herself, says, I helped you like June helped me, and Esther says, you're not June. Then she starts coughing up blood. She's used her expertise once again to poison herself, and Janine And Lydia comes running in the room screaming and panicking, but they're both unconscious with blood everywhere. And we see the cool aerial from the trailer with them on the ground with the Gilead symbol.
This scene is also a one shot. Not the whole scene, but up until the point where they're like coughing up the blood. It just slowly like zooms in on the two of them on the bed, and then it circles around the back of Janine over to see Esther while she's talking, while she kind of turns on Janine. And it's sort of interesting because, like, I don't know if this means anything, but we're like the camera's on the left side of Janine when Esther is, and like over Janine's shoulder when Esther is saying, I didn't really like you when I first met you, and I was right the first time. And then it goes over to the other side of Janine. It's almost like it's flipping. The camera's like flipping because the scene is flipping. I don't know.
I think that was intentional.
Yeah. Their acting in the scene is incredible too. And the fact that they did this all in like one fluid take like that. I love it.
McKenna's face in this was like, she really put the horrifying face on. You could tell something bad was about to happen when she was looking at Janine like that. I was like, oh shit, something's going to happen.
It was insane that she used the chocolate that Putnam just forced on her, like intentionally.
Yeah.
Like the big bad revenge. And I wondered at first because she doesn't eat any of the chocolates, just Janine digs in. And I mean, we knew from the trailer that they would end up almost dying on the floor. So I figured that something is in there. And I was like, why is she not eating anything? She's ending up on the floor as well. But then I thought maybe she ingested the poison almost directly or ate a few before.
Yeah, she must
because
have
she
eaten it
only
first.
bites in. He only bites into one.
Yeah.
Right at the time where it started.
Yeah.
Like she was showing that the chocolates were the poison.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like she ate it before she gave it to Janine and had so much time.
Got a head start.
I feel like there's a poison apple analogy here.
Yeah. Didn't Esther say, we're going to make June proud?
Yes.
Yeah, that line was interesting.
I wondered about that because it's like, why would she be proud of them being dead?
I think she just saw June as someone who's willing to do things, you know, like almost like a hero, like a superhero. Because I remember when she first met her, June wanted to just sit back and, you know, see what happens for a little bit, and Esther got pissed off because she wanted to start like rampaging people straight away.
Yeah.
Janine sort of says earlier, she says, you know, when you're pregnant, they treat you like a princess. And Esther's just like, well, I don't want to be pregnant. She wants Janine to be more like June. And I remember she didn't in that first meeting when with the pig. And I think she just saw Janine as really weak.
Yeah. I think like maybe it's the line about making June proud is because she's thinking, you know, we're going to die rather than conform to this system that's evil. And so that's something that she thinks it's a good thing that June would be glad they did that they would rather die than just go along with Gilead.
Yeah. She's just like this rebellious idol to her, I guess. Now for the funeral, Serena approaches the casket and lays her torso across it and looks truly sad and then looks up at the sky. Lawrence comes in and sees her crying, tells her to take as much time as she needs. They can wait. One thing that he understands is mourning your spouse, but Serena's ready for the show. She pulls her veil over her face and the pallbearers take the casket as the clock strikes. And there's a cool shot of her leaving the doorway with her gown looking like a cape behind her, you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. She looks like a Dementor.
She does, right.
A beautiful, graceful Dementor.
Yes.
She's sucking the soul out of everybody who comes into her life.
Shout out to Jamie Donnelly, who was Serena's hairstylist this season. She did an amazing job in this scene. I heard it was a bit of a pain in the neck to put that veil on, but it looked amazing.
Yeah, and they filmed it for 2 days, which I'll mention later. But yeah, Jamie's amazing and Serena looks gorgeous. And her hair is short in real life, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
a lot of work.
Lots of like extensions all the time putting those in.
Then we're at Swan Lake. By the way, good prediction, Sarah. When we saw the episode title, you called it, right? Good call.
Yeah.
And it's obviously a great parallel between the dark and the light. June's wearing white, Serena's in black, the snow is blowing, Tuello's looking admiringly at Serena, and then they start to process. Nick and Lawrence behind Serena. It's an enormous funeral, and June's in the ballet audience in a sea of black. white swan in a sea of black. And it flashes back and forth between the ballet and the show in Gilead. We get close-ups of each of the different groups of the Gilead hierarchy, of Nick, Lawrence, Naomi. Then June's moved to tears by the ballet. Then the handmaids bow to Serena, and the plum girls come out as the ballet is ending. June and Luke hold hands right before the camera settles on Hannah in the purple at the funeral. Then after the ballet, June and Luke are flirting at a food truck, like where they originally met, with the same kind of pre-Gilead banter they used to have, which is a bit jarring to me, as I mentioned. That June's trying to slip back into pre-Gilead June. Then they're walking across a giant square with TVs everywhere, and they're kissing, which is strange considering she seemed physically unable to kiss him throughout all of season 4. But anyway, it's after the kiss that June looks up and sees the funeral on the giant screens, and they both turn as they watch. June's visibly affected by seeing Nick, but then the big reveal, Hannah comes out and gives Serena flowers. And Serena kisses her head as Hannah fills the screen, all the screens, and then it ends with Serena staring down at June from the initial promo shots, and June up at Serena.
The music in this scene is so great, and it was stuck in my head for
Yeah.
like days after I watched this episode.
Yeah, I got really big goosebumps as well.
Me too.
I was surprised to learn that that was an actual ballet dancer that had to do these takes, like with June in the audience, over and over and over and over again.
Oh,
I thought
wow.
they would
Yeah.
take it from like a ballet that was recorded, but apparently not, and it sounds absolutely exhausting.
I wanted to talk about the fact that in the very start of the ballet, you see the light dots. I guess that's the light shining on the stage, and it looks like the light dots that were shown in season 4 a lot. And it always seems to be her feeling a bit trapped in her life. And I mean, we see her starting to tear up at the ballet and slowly fading into a more normal looking June, I guess. And I felt that it looked like she lets out her feeling a bit, like she's sitting there all alone. Nobody's watching her react to anything. And maybe she can get stuff out because of the emotional music and watching the swan breaking out. Or I don't know Swan Lake, so I can't tell which scene that was, but probably something to do with that. But I was wondering about the dots at first because I thought maybe she feels trapped again, but then she seems so relieved at the end. So maybe she has a little rebirth there or something like that. Maybe she could go back into her old self a little easier there.
Yeah.
I think she finds herself in Odette, who is the white swan in Swan Lake. And Odette is trapped in the body of a swan.
Mhm.
She's not
Perfect.
actually a swan. She is she's a princess.
That's so good.
She's been cursed by a sorcerer to be a swan until she's loved unconditionally by someone. I think that was a deal with her.
Oh, amazing.
And what about Serena as the black swan?
She is the antagonist in Swan Lake, and she represents sort of like more dangerous emotions and maybe a darker nature. And she's like the evil twin. And these two roles are often portrayed or danced by the same dancer in the ballet, but they're not the same person in the story.
Right.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Because Serena and June really share a lot of things nowadays, especially in season 4 when June talks about Serena and you see her being exactly like that. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
And there was something else that I found on the White Swan that I feel is relevant to how June is like with Luke after this, or how she's with him when they get off the ballet. The White Swan represents vulnerability, fragility, beauty, purity. She's the perfect woman. And the perfect woman, of course, doesn't exist, but that's probably what June's trying to be.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, I love this when they do all those double meaning stuff that you have to really get behind to fully understand.
If I remember, there was a interview with Lizzie. It was at the very start of the season where I think a interviewer was kind of following around for a bit, and in her trailer there was loads of images of Swan Lake and things like that. So she obviously really liked this idea.
I actually got to watch the funeral being filmed, and it was incredible to hear Lizzie directing and see how much work goes into 5 minutes of television, if it was even 5 minutes. It was 2 full days of filming in the cold, repeating every 50 feet of the walk over and over again. And I was stunned when I realized it was Hannah giving Serena the flowers. Brilliant revenge. And if I'm not mistaken, I thought they filmed a few takes of the camera zooming in on Nick's face, looking back and forth between Serena and Lydia, angry. I would have liked to have seen that, as well as a really cool dramatic turn of Serena's. But obviously you can't keep everything in, and the final product was amazing. And while we're talking about the hardworking crew, I just wanted to also say that every member of the crew on the show that we've ever spoken to in person or via direct messages are just incredible people. They've been so supportive of the podcast. They're always happy to explain how a scene was done when we have questions. And honestly, we count a few of them as just good friends at this point. It's just such a lovely bunch of people. Every new person we speak to only confirms more of what an amazing crew this show has collected for every single detail of production. And obviously the cast as well. We had an extraordinary opportunity to spend 10 minutes in the company of Lizzie and Bradley during filming, and they could not have been more enjoyable or nicer. We'll talk about that more when we get to that scene later in the podcast. But it just helps reinforce our love of the show to see how incredible everybody is that works on it and how hard they work. And it's just a lovely bunch of people.
Yes.
Yay. So yeah, it was not that much of a surprise to see Hannah because we knew about that. I was wondering because she looked so big, and I didn't get that impression back when she was when she was sitting in the box with her doll. But I think that was a bit on purpose because she was all in that pink and with the bonnet again, and she looked really small. And I mean, they gave her a doll, so maybe they wanted to have June get even more of the horrible feeling that she's a little kid trapped in there. So they pressed hard on the fact that she's little because there's not much time between then and now she's in plum and looking really
grown up. She's looking very
like
grown up.
Teenager. Yeah.
Must be terrifying for Luke and June.
I kind of knew something bad was going to happen when Serena started. She got this like shit-eating grin on her face, and I was like, oh shit, something bad's going to go down.
Pretty good evil look she's got there. Like,
yeah, this whole segment has a very like Disney villain vibe to it me, but like in an amazing way. Like that's like, I would watch a whole season of them making them like an evil witch and a like trapped princess. It's great.
And the poison apple like content. It's all very
definitely
amazing.
It's crazy that like Serena orchestrated all of this basically just to be like like a cruel joke on June that she's with Hannah. Like that's just,
I have your daughter.
So that's petty in like an amazing way.
Yeah, I know. Like she worked hard to make this happen. For that
she
scene.
Manipulated like all of Gilead. She like got a live stream orchestrated. She like, that's crazy.
Amazing,
diabolical.
I wondered when did she get the idea to do that, and how did she do it? Because she had to get the Mackenzies to come all over to Boston, back to Boston, and to get them to give Hannah a big staged moment in front of the whole world.
She was doing that list with Lawrence, so Lawrence is aware of this plan. He's helping her.
That's true. That's true. I mean, once it's like secured that it's going to be live streamed to the world, I don't think it would have been a hard sell to be like, hey, we want your daughter to be on TV. Like they probably would be happy for that publicity to show that, here's
Gilead would love that. Yeah.
Right. Gilead and the Mackenzies, I think, would be willing to have her do that because they think it's good for Gilead.
Fuck you.
Yeah, but
also fuck you to June.
June tried all of season 3 to get to Hannah, and showing her on screen now she's out. Is it like them trying to get her back in to punish her, or is it them not caring that she might try to start something to get her out? I mean, I would be too scared to show my I say this with
quotes
my kids to the world where her actual mother could see that, and knowing that her mother did everything in the books to try to get back to her. And then I kind of love that June reacted a bit to Nick there, because she's like, she hasn't seen him in, I don't know how much time do we think that passed between the murder and now? Not that much.
Not long, because it's his funeral. So a week maybe.
So she has seen him recently, so, and I mean, she kissed him there, so her feelings are definitely still there, full on. But she tried to probably put him back into his box that she had for him in the start of when she came to Canada. So seeing him probably triggered something in her, and then it's surely overshadowed by the fact that she sees her girl, and I felt her. It's so horrible. Especially seeing her with Serena, that's really the most wicked thing they could come up with.
Yeah, I love the shot just of Lizzie's looking at one screen and then Luke kind of spins to look at the other. And then June realizes that obviously he's seen something really horrible, and she looks up and there's Hannah like basically everywhere. And then stupid Serena's face comes on the screen and she knows June is watching. And she's got that silly grin on her face again. And you've got the wings behind her. One of our other podcast members, Melissa, noticed that the wings behind Serena looked a lot like the wings behind June in season 3 when they were in Washington. So that was a cool image to look at, both of them.
Yeah, that was really cool. I just wanted to say, when we saw the previews and we knew this big funeral was happening, and I think we were all a little like, why would Gilead do that? I really like how they showed how Serena did it. Like we said earlier, it made sense, I like this whole episode a lot. Good work. I also wanted to call back to when, right before Serena betrayed Fred, he told her he doesn't care about all the pomp and circumstance. And I just I love that this was his funeral, and he would 1000% be like on board with this because he cared about pomp and circumstance.
Very good callback.
Yes. All right. I think that's a wrap on our analysis of season 5, episode 2. Come back next week when we discuss season 5, episode 3 on Wednesday, the day the episode drops. Thanks for listening. Bye, all.
Bye.
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 Do you guys sit on the floor with your friends?
No.
I don't have friends, but if I did, I'd sit on the floor.
I don't sit on the floor because I would have an entire cat's worth of cat hair on my butt when I got up.
That's a very unique problem to you.
Yeah.